This is episode 60 of the Magic Detective Podcast. On this episode, you'll hear about Houdini and Christmas. That and more on this episode of the Magic Detective Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Magic Detective Podcast, your podcast home for magic history. I'm your host, Dean Carnegie. I am the Magic Detective, and this is episode number 60. Wow. Did I ever drop the ball on episode 59? Not only did I make an executive decision and pulled half the podcast, but I didn't really go into depth on Al Cohen as I should have. I totally forgot about something, actually, I forgot about a major thing that happened that weekend, too, so I'm going to try to catch up a little bit. But first, I want to just share with you, in the future, I will do a whole podcast devoted to Al, because personally would love to do that, and I think the audience would love that as well. But I wanted to share a couple recollections with you. A friend of mine reminded me, she said this about Al Cohen. She said, it's funny that all magic tricks were done with batteries. And that would make no sense to anyone who hadn't seen Al demo his products, but he had this habit of producing a small battery at the end of certain routines. So if he was doing like the plastic cups and balls, one of the loads might be like a C-sized battery at the end. He also had this coin cylinder thing that he would produce batteries out of. It was funny stuff. He was great. Something I didn't know, back in the day, Al had one of the few recordings of Houdini's voice. And he used to share it with, if there were magic historians that came to town, he kept it in his office and he would share it with them. And now, we've all heard this recording. It's from the wax cylinders. But back in the day, that was something special that, Al was one of the very few that had that. I never knew that in all the time that I had visited the shop. Although I don't know that I necessarily shared my fascination with Houdini with Al. It was just straight, magic trick stuff for the most part. One thing I didn't mention, or I don't think I mentioned, is I had the good fortune of giving Al his very first Lifetime Achievement Award from the Society of American Magicians. And this was a number of years back now. I was the Mid-Atlantic Regional Vice President of the Society of American Magicians, and we put together a banquet in Al's honor and gave him his Lifetime Achievement Award. I had hired Bob Sheets to be the performer at the event because I knew that Al Cohen loved Bob, and likewise Bob loved Al, so it was a great combination. And we had a number of speakers. Doc Doherty, who worked the shop, spoke. Barry Taylor spoke. There were a number of people that got up and spoke and gave their recollections of Al. I think, I want to say he still had the shop, but he was getting ready to sell it. I think it would have been around 2001, 2002-ish. I'm going to say somewhere around there, if I remember correctly. I've got the photos, but I don't remember the dates per se. So anyway, that's just a little bit more on Al Cohen. And also on episode 59, if you go back and listen, I praised David Sandy and Lance Rich for their Magic Collectors Corner Zoom show. Specifically the Final Tannins episode, which totally blew me away. But I do want to say this, all of their episodes are incredible. And not just the final one, all of them. I mean, I laughingly joked that they couldn't stick to a time limit of whatever. I think they said it was 2 hours. And who cares? That was the best part, when it would run over. I mean, I remember listening to, I think one of them was 4 hours or long. Maybe the Tannins one was 4 hours. There was more than one. There was more than one. And it was great. And everybody stayed. And it was just awesome. They did such a great job. But there was one person that I should have probably mentioned that had a lot to do with that Tannins episode, and that was David Copperfield. And that episode, I don't think, would have been as cool without David Copperfield's contribution. If you haven't seen that episode yet, I don't want to give away exactly what happens, but you've got to see that particular episode because it's so great. Now, here's the big thing that I left off on the last podcast, and this happened on December 12th, 2020. The National Museum of American Jewish History honored both Harry Houdini and David Copperfield by inducting them into the Ed Snyder Only in America Hall of Fame. They joined such luminaries as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Jonas Salk, Sandy Koufax, and others. And it was a really interesting program, and it was presented virtually online with video presentations by David Copperfield and others. Many of the Houdini relatives were present, so we got to see many of them. And they also took advantage of the whole Zoom aspect. So I know I saw Ozzy Wynn do some interactive magic. So it was, and actually at the time I had just finished a Zoom show of my own, so it was like a bit surreal. I finished a Zoom show and I turned this thing on and they're doing a Zoom show and I'm like, what? Where? I'm in Bizarro land here. But it was really, really awesome and well deserved on both accounts. I have admired David Copperfield as a performer and David Copperfield's collection from afar for many years, and I think for a long time, maybe you're slightly interested more in the collection, maybe in the latter years than the shows, but no offense. I know in the early years, David was the man, still is the man. He's awesome. But the collection, I remember hearing on the news, listening to the radio was the first place I heard that there was like this strange collection that was discovered called the Mulholland Collection, and it was worth millions of dollars, and what was going to happen to it. And I forget where they said they found it or discovered it or whatever. And I remember calling a friend of mine going, "Hey, how can we raise like $1 million and buy this collection?" Right. Oh my. But fortunately, David bought that collection, and what he's doing with it just appears to be phenomenal. This latest thing about putting displays and things together of the various performers is just, I don't have words for it. It's just so amazing, and it's like the Smithsonian of magic, and I've never seen it in person. I hope to see it someday, especially as a researcher, because, I love to, obviously Houdini is number one for me, but then, I also love researching all these guys. I mean, you've listened to the podcast. There's, before this one, 59 other podcasts. There's some obscure people in there, and I love researching all of them. So hopefully one day I'll get a chance to visit David's collection and really see some of the stuff that I talked about in person and up close. That would be really, really cool. So, and one other thing I want to point out about David Copperfield's participation in the Tannen episode for the Magic Collector's Corner. I think my favorite part of that was just watching the joy on David Copperfield's face, remembering his time visiting Tannins, and it was just, he was like a kid at a candy shop or a kid at a magic shop. I mean, it was just awesome, and he had so many great stories. And again, I kind of want to spoil it because I figure everybody has seen it by now, but obviously there's going to be somebody out there that hasn't seen it, so I don't want to spoil it. I want you to go check it out and see it for yourself, because it's just the coolest. And that's all I can say, but another big kudos to David Copperfield for all he's done for magic and magic history. And okay, there's that. All right. Oh, and speaking of magic history news, this is big for me. The Magic Detective podcast has passed the 15,000 download mark, which is pretty awesome and going strong. So I figure by the end of season 3, we'll probably easily pass 25,000, if not more. So that's just great. I'm loving that. So thank you, everybody that listens to the podcast. And I do apologize for the infrequency of some of these episodes of late. You would think with a pandemic I'd have more time on my hands, but I've been, working my tail off trying to get work through these Zoom shows, and that's been problematic. I've got a great show, but trying to find the audience has been some days tough, some days easy. I've got a couple really great clients, but I need a few more. So anyway, don't want to talk about me. I just want to thank everybody for listening, and let's get on to some other things. By the way, today is Christmas Day. Some of you know that I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee, and if the world isn't crazy enough, someone blew up an RV in downtown Nashville this morning. I've been following the news all day and just to find out what the motive was, but so far I haven't seen anything on the news. I'm safe. I'm pretty far from it. I'm actually not in downtown Nashville, so I'm in Mount Juliet, so I'm a little bit a ways. But if you tried to call me and you couldn't get through, that's because apparently the AT&T towers are down, so I can't get a call out. Nobody can get a call in. I've got a couple text messages. Not sure how that's even working, but thankfully I still have the internet, so we're going on with this episode today. How about that? Pretty fantastic. So here's what I wanted to do. This is a short episode, by the way, but just wanted to do this on behalf of Christmas. Houdini has this love of Christmas. And I remember over the years, several people looking at me funny when I'd mention that. The immediate response would be something like, well, wasn't he Jewish? Or wasn't his father a rabbi? And the answer is yes to both. So let me just delve into the holiday first. Christmas has always been kind of a dual holiday. Originally, it was meant to be to celebrate the birth of Jesus, but the day also fell upon existing celebrations by different cultures. So these various traditions merged into one holiday called Christmas, but there appears to be there's the religious celebration, and then there's kind of a separate cultural celebration. And for Christians, they probably, most of them that I know of, celebrate all the traditions. They celebrate the birth of Jesus. They have Christmas trees, Santa Claus, presents, the whole 9 yards. And for non-Christians, this would be Houdini, they also enjoy various parts of the holiday, like Santa and the Christmas tree and decorating and exchanging gifts. And that's pretty awesome right there. So pretty sure that's what Houdini was all about. One very interesting thing, though, about the holiday is it's always kind of been wrapped up in controversy. A lot of people don't know this. First, the early Christians here in America were actually against it. The holiday was even banned in parts of colonial America. Now, today we find political correctness and tied in with Christmas, and they don't always mix so well. Some groups and individuals have complained about having the word Christmas used on government calendars. Others want nativity scenes banned on government property. Some groups even want to ban Santa Claus, though in his modern incarnation, he's hardly a religious figure at all. And others have actually pressed retailers to remove the word Christmas from displays and advertisements. Apparently, it's okay at the moment to use the words Happy Holidays, at least until somebody complains about that. Oh, and then there are Christian groups out there that are still protesting Christmas because it isn't in the Bible. It's just not written, December 25th is the day we must celebrate. It doesn't say that, so... Anyway, it's all gotten a little bit ridiculous, and if we just take Christmas for what it is, for those that want to celebrate a secular side, great. And for those that want to celebrate a religious side, awesome. But it is kind of funny how the holiday has had this little bit of controversy since day one. Now, Houdini apparently loved Christmas, and I think it was more than just because Bess was Catholic. She was a Catholic, but I don't think it had to do with that. If you look at the abundance of customized Houdini Christmas cards, I think it proves it out. He loved Christmas. And by the way, my favorite of the Houdini Christmas cards that I've seen has a poem on it, and it also has this really cool cartoon as well. And the poem reads like this. The spirit of old Santa Claus communicates with me. From spirit debunking task I pause to heed his worthy plea. I stir myself to print these thoughts, a poor but sincere way, to let you know I'm thinking lots of you this Christmas day. And the cartoon is of a tiny Houdini making a Christmas card and signing it and putting it into a mailbox. It's just the coolest. And then there's another one. This one's pretty cool too. Gentle friend, it may be shocking, but I am in your Christmas stocking. In your service I am tied, couldn't get out if I tried. And the cartoon is Houdini inside a big Christmas stocking. It's hilarious looking. He had some good illustrators working for him, I'll say that. And then there's one with Houdini and Bess. And Houdini's obviously in his office surrounded by his books. Again, it's all illustrated. And Bess starts with asking Houdini, Houdini, have you wished our friends a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year? Which to me is kind of funny because Bess is calling him Houdini. And then the reply is seen in a spilled bottle of ink on the table, and it says, so therefore, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Houdini wish you the compliments of the season. And there are other Christmas cards too. A lot of them have a picture of either just Houdini or Houdini and Bess with a Christmas greeting on them. I haven't seen all of them, but the ones I've seen are very cool. And now another facet of Christmas and Houdini was this. During the Christmas week or the Christmas holidays, vaudeville houses often saw a decline in attendance. And this was even mentioned in newspaper articles. And there were multiple reasons for this, but chief among them was the acts wanted to go home for the holidays. Now, Houdini, living in New York City, well, he could be home for the holidays and still work in some of the vaudeville houses. Which is exactly what he did. And he did it every Christmas season. And again, due to his location, he could work in New York City. He could work in some of the surrounding cities. He could even go to Boston, which he also did, because it was just a short train ride away. So from his house, he could cover a lot of ground. In fact, John Cox from wildabouthoudini.com posted a headline from a newspaper that read, Houdini and Santa Claus at Keith's. So Santa's there handing out gifts to all the children. And Houdini is there, no slouch either, doing his water torture cell. Pure awesomeness. That's the best. Now, it's true Houdini was Jewish, but I personally know a lot of Jewish people who enjoy Christmas. A dear friend of mine said to me once, she's Jewish, she said, my family and I, we love to get gifts. So yes, we celebrate and we have a Christmas tree and everything. And I'm told, and I vaguely recall seeing this, that there is a photo of Houdini and his family at 278, and there's a Christmas tree in the background. So this is at his home in Harlem. At any rate, Houdini certainly celebrated and enjoyed Christmas. And I hope you, my friends, will enjoy the spirit of the season as well. By the way, Houdini's brother Hardin also celebrated Christmas, as I've seen examples of his customized Christmas cards. And actually, the Weiss boys were not the only artists to do this. I've seen cards from Thurston and Blackstone and others. In fact, even though Christmas is past, technically, it was this morning, this might be a fun thing to bring back. What do you think? Today, everything is digital. But this is me personally, I kind of like going out to the mailbox and getting personalized mail. Junk mail, not so much, but personalized mail, yeah, I like that. So I think next year I'm going to do a customized Christmas card. Don't let me forget, okay? Don't let me forget. Remind me sometime like in August, and I'll start collecting names and addresses and designing the card. And I think that'll be really cool for 2021. And I wish I had thought of it sooner. Oh, and one more thing. Given that this is the season of giving gifts, this is for those out there listening to the podcast that are either new to magic history or collecting, okay? I've got 10 pieces of memorabilia, magic memorabilia, that I will give free of charge to help you start your magic history collections, okay? One piece per person. So the first 10 that reach me, I'll send you one, okay? Just send me an email to info@carnegiemagic.com, and in the subject heading, put free history present. And then, of course, in the body of the email, make sure you put your full name and your mailing address in there. Okay, that's for the first 10 that reach out to me, and I will send you something in the mail, magic history related. All right. And my friends, that's going to do it for today's episode. It is a short episode, like I said. I will be back in 2021 with more full episodes and lots of new stuff. It's going to be a great year for magic history. And with that, I'm Dean Carnegie. I am the Magic Detective. Please be well, stay safe. Until next time.